Hi everyone, welcome back to another Interesting Games episode where we tell you the games that we've been playing over the last week or so.
Yep, absolutely right. So we've got 6 games to talk about here. As we always say, they could be new games, they don't have to be. They're just games that we've been playing that we want to say something about.
As always, if you want to save yourself a bit of bunts, you can use our codes for physical or digital games down in the description and also Joy-Cons, and we get a nice little kickback, so everyone's a winner.
For sure. So which games have we been playing? Well, let's find out. Right, the first one I've been playing that I want to talk about is it's a collection. It's called the Zero Tolerance Collection.
This rings a bell. This is a physical you've got.
Yeah, it was.
What is this?
So basically, Zero Tolerance was a first-person shooter that was out on the Mega Drive.
Okay.
So it came out, I think, 1994.
Yeah.
And it's this collection is obviously that original game. It has, as far as I understand at least, an unreleased sequel.
Okay.
And then a prototype that was never obviously finished, that's since been finished for this collection.
Right.
So there are 3 games on this collection.
Okay.
It comes via, well, Qbyte have developed it, but it comes via Pico, who are a company that are quite known these days for either creating physical releases of older games,
Yeah.
or releasing older games onto newer systems digitally.
Okay.
And obviously they've kind of done a bit of both here. And it's actually quite a good game. I mean, it's bloody hard.
What is it? I can't picture
So
it at all.
so it's a first-person shooter. To make it very easy, if I say Doom to you,
Nice.
you'll get the idea of where we're going. But basically, you get taken to this space station that's been overrun by monsters, aliens, whatever, and you're like a crack team that needs to take them down.
Right.
And you basically have like X amount that you have to kill.
Yeah.
Over a few floors of this station. You have 5 characters, which are basically your 5 lives. So when one of them dies, you play as the next one.
So you're a crack team, a bit like the SAS.
Yeah.
You know what that stands for? Super Army Soldiers.
You sure it's not Special Air Service?
We finally got it in. Sorry, carry on.
Watch extras. Yeah, and then you'll know. Ross Kemp, what a legend. But yeah, back to the game. So you play as this team, and you basically, I mean, obviously it's a first-person shooter from the 90s,
Yeah.
so it's all on one stick or the D-pad. There's no separate aim,
Yeah.
at least in that original game, and it's tough. Like, you walk into a room, there could be 10 enemies that swarm on you, and you're desperately trying to take them out, and before you know it, you're dead, and the next person comes in. But I found it quite compelling. Like that first, you die after 10 seconds. I was like, what? Like, oh, all right, here we go then. Yeah, I've been mugged off. Like, it's taken my money. It's just laughed at me. But then you're like, no, I'm not having that. I'm gonna, and you try again, you get better. But I found the only real tactic is like you have a map at the bottom. It's like you play on half a screen. You have a picture of your character map. Like Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
And so you can see the room and you can see how many enemies are inside by the red dots.
Okay.
So you kind of know what you're going in for.
Yeah.
So you have a moment to kind of brace yourself. But I found just going in and spraying bullets everywhere. They don't even try and be precise. It kind of has that slight auto aim of Doom.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't up and down. There's no actual aim.
Yeah. You've got no y-axis.
Yes, so it's kind of like that in some degree, to some degree, but you just go in and you just fire bullets everywhere and hope you survive and then find a medipack. That was the strategy I was going for, But it's quite good, you find like lifts and you have to go up to the next floor and it will say whether that floor's complete or not, and then you keep going. And obviously I haven't even tried the other games, so there's 2 more games on it.
Nice.
I'm wondering what the updated one or the finished prototype will be like, whether that will have more modern controls on it or whether they've just taken what was and polished it up and finished it off.
I'm really keen to see what this looks like. I have no idea in my mind what this looks like. Obviously I've got Doom that you've said, but I love first-person shooters of all shapes and sizes, so I quite like the idea of this.
Yeah, it's one I would say, I would recommend it with the caveat that you have to enjoy the origins of first person. If you've become accustomed to what they are now, and it's very difficult for you to go back, it's not even worth thinking about. But if you're happy to kind of revisit, then you could have some fun here.
Lovely. All right, brilliant. Well, off the back of that then, I will go for the first-person shooter I was thinking of and I have been playing this week, which is Forgive Me Father.
Oh, yeah.
So I've gone back to Forgive Me Father. I thought I'd play through as the female character. So you've got 2. You've got the priest and you've got the journalist, who is actually his, I think it's like niece or something. They're related in some way. But she's really annoying.
Okay.
Because they're voice acted, so you go in and you're like, the priest's really cool, They always are in these kind of things, They have these cracking one-liners. She goes in and hits this like nasally, like, where's my granddad? Like, ugh. I can't. I just can't. But it kind of undermines, you know. She's like busting out these whingy lines, and then the next thing she's popping heads. It's just a bit odd. It doesn't really go for me. I wish she was a little bit more hard, a bit more fitting for what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I had From Dusk Till Dawn in my head, because you had is it Harvey Keitel's character, who was, I believe, a priest. I might be wrong. I'm fairly sure he was, and he wasn't like busting out all the guns out, but he was cool, wasn't he?
He was cool.
And then you had his daughter, who was equally as cool, but not so here.
No, just quite annoying.
Yeah,
and it always upsets me, especially if the game's so good. So what you're looking at again is a first-person shooter. It has a very artistic, well, obviously it's artistic, but stylized. It has a stylized artistic style, whereby basically as you take damage, you go mad.
Oh, right.
So it has that Lovecraftian.
Oh, as in insane.
You go insane.
Not angry mad.
No. You go insane, and the screen gradually goes black and white.
Right. Yeah.
And the two things for that are you do way more damage.
Yeah.
But you take way more damage.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a nice enough mechanic. We've seen it done before. But it does fit well. So obviously you've seen all these horrible like zombie creatures get blown apart. It's lots of blood and guts.
Right.
You know, shooting barrels to kill them. What this game does really well is that those moments where suddenly everything ramps up. So it goes from very slow to holy crap.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of holy crap moments, and it will lock you in as well.
Right, yeah.
And it's all going grey. You're going mad. You've got to kind of mix it up a bit. It's got a full skill tree.
Oh, okay.
So it's got a full skill tree. You can put points into different areas to make like your twin pistols better, your shotguns, etc. But also you've got skills. So you've got like this holy cross. Holy cross, that's a place where we live, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got this holy cross that you can hold up to heal yourself. You've got holy water that you can, obviously I'm talking about the priest.
Yeah.
You like dab on the enemies and stuns them for a second. So it mixes it up. I will say the controls for that are really poorly designed.
Right. Because
you use the D-pad. Now obviously in a twin stick shooter, your thumbs are planted on the twin sticks.
Yes.
To move around. So you're moving to suddenly take your finger off there and do that.
Yeah.
Invariably you get killed sometimes.
Right. Yeah, that's a poor choice, isn't it?
It's a bit of a poor choice. But other than that, like the actual game, really good. Physical as well.
So in terms of, you mentioned Lovecraft, so obviously it has that kind of insanity meter. Is it Lovecraftian in terms of its themes, or?
Yeah, so it has that kind of like overrun Victorian London-y kind of feel, with the creatures being the Lovecraft element.
Oh, okay.
You'll see from the art, as soon as you see it, you'll go, oh.
So in terms of setting and stuff, it's not so much, but in terms of creatures, fair enough.
So it's the creatures and the monsters you fight, and then that insanity mechanic.
Yeah, fair enough. My next one is actually, I've mentioned before my love of, or my penchant, I should say.
I love the word penchant.
It's a good word, isn't it?
That's French, right? Means.
Well, in my case, in this context, it means like perverse pleasure out of
pleasure.
Licensed games.
Oh, he does have a perverse pleasure for licensed games, the worst games in the world. He loves them.
But this one's not bad.
Okay.
And
when you say licensed games, just clarify that for the audience.
So anything based on a movie or an IP of some description, you know. And this is the Smurfs 2, which I think is the tagline is something like "Prisoner of the Green Stone." Now, it's not bad, this, is it? It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
There are some issues, don't get me wrong, there are some issues. But in terms of, well, certainly in terms of being a licensed game, but just in terms of generally being quite fun, it's all right. It's all right. It's a 3D platformer where you play as, obviously, you know, a collection of the Smurf characters, and you team up with Gargamel, who was traditionally their, you know, enemy. And you go into a number of different portals and obviously then access these different levels. Now the point of it, I did try and keep a track of the story. And it shouldn't be that difficult. It's a Smurfs
game. It's a kids game, isn't it?
But I got lost. So it's something to do with, I think, like Handy Smurf or someone's created a machine and then it broke. And he wanted to use these magic crystals to make it right. But obviously they're much more powerful than he anticipated. I don't know why they teamed up with Gargamel. They had to go to his castle to get the stones. And I don't know, they work together for whatever reason. I don't know. But, so you basically have like a little, like a proton pack kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you have to destroy all these crystals that you find across the world because they're like contaminated and they're causing the problems.
Okay.
So you shoot them to destroy them. You know, hold down ZL to go into aiming mode.
Yep.
Use the stick, or it does have gyro controls as well. And you take these little stones out. Move along. Every so often you'll get locked in and have to fight a number of enemies.
Yeah.
Clear them all out. Move on. Further still. Platforming, obviously. You know, for what it's trying to do, it does it pretty well.
Yeah.
There's nothing really. I mean, frame rate, it does stutter every so often. I do think the levels are too long. That's one thing I will say. I would have preferred more levels but shorter.
Yeah.
I think they drag on a bit. I mean, obviously you can it gets to auto-save points, you can turn it off. But I'm one of those people where I like to finish a level and then turn the game off. I don't like to stop mid-level. So I would have preferred the levels to be a bit shorter, more concise. But it's okay.
Yeah. So Gargamel, he was the manager of a paper company and he got made redundant.
Right.
And he went out on the road. He was working independently for a while. And then he was driving along one day, looked out the window, saw some Smurfs at the side of the road, picked them up, and they said, "We really need your help." He went, "I'll help that one." Well, it's one of them. The rest is history. So if you needed to know the story, now you do.
What just happened?
Your face. Sorry, that was The Office. That was The Office. Sorry, everyone. Wrong genre. Wrong medium. Entirely. So ignore everything I just said. You won't find that difficult, will you?
No, I've forgotten already. Yeah, but it's. I mean, there are a couple of Smurf games on the Switch.
The racing one is really good.
The racing one's okay, and there's the prequel to this, or the one before this. It's called something like Mission Belief. Yeah, like VILEAF.
What's the story?
I don't know. I can't follow.
Sorry,
it. I struggle with Smurf games, obviously. But even that's not bad. They're quite decent. I think quite historically they seem to put a bit more effort into Smurf games.
I do have something sensible to say.
Okay.
Right. These are Microids games.
Yeah,
Microids. And I have to say, for the French studio, they have got a lot of little gems.
Yeah.
They have. There's the one on the island that I showed the other day. I forget what it's called. And there's one where you've got the horse, the Emerald Tails one. They're actually not that bad games. You kind of look at these licenses, you go, "Oh, that's going to be,
Yeah.
And you play them, you're like, there's actually been quite a bit of effort into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the cutscenes are good. The voice acting's okay. Gargamel sounded kind of like he did back in the cartoon.
What
back
did he sound like?
Like he did in the cartoon the other day.
I'll never get him to do an impression or something. Come on.
No. But it's fine. I mean, I bought the physical, and it's one of those ones where you get some little postcards with it and little bits and bobs. So it was all right. It wasn't too expensive for a physical, at least. I wouldn't have paid what I paid for it digitally. But if you can find it on sale, it's all right.
Nice. Yeah, I can vouch for some of those games. I've played a few of them, and every time I'm like, hang on, that's quite good.
Yeah.
Especially the racing one you spoke about. It's decent. My kids love that.
Yeah.
All right, my next one then, it's a bit of a toss-up between a few different options. I'm going to go for Metal Gear Solid 3.
Okay, yeah.
I spoke about Metal Gear Solid 2 before. I think I might have even spoken about Metal Gear Solid 3.
You did, but
when
I
just started
it, yeah.
So I just started, didn't I? And I was like, oh, this is really difficult, the controls, etc. Turns out I was rubbish. Like, really rubbish.
I think the gameplay footage testified to that.
Yeah, you could see it, couldn't you? All I did was walk through a swamp.
You walked through a swamp, you went up a tree, you fell out of said tree. Went back up tree.
He's
in the bush.
The squirrels are just there like... He's gone up again.
He's gone. He nudged his mate. Here, come here. Have a look at this. Two little squirrels just sitting there. Wait. Idiot.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong, because the start of Metal Gear Solid, you basically got to get your ammo pouch out of the tree, but to know that, you had to have listened to the briefing, which I didn't.
Yeah.
So I was just doing laps, going up and down this tree, and then eventually I was like, oh, what's that at the end? Next to the squirrels. Oh, it's an ammo pouch.
The squirrel's hiding there.
Exactly.
It's like, nothing to see here, mate.
So anyway, I've pushed way beyond that now. I've done a few bosses. You saw me fight the young revolver Ocelot boss.
Yes, I did, yeah.
I smashed him next time, absolutely annihilated the poor fellow. I found like a few pistols, some proper aiming, and he was done for. And then I went down into this cave system, was fighting like all kinds of weird things. Ate a few snakes.
Okay, well, it's called Snake Eater,
yeah,
isn't it?
you have to.
You have to do it.
You have to eat them.
It's the law.
So, exactly. I ate a few snakes, and then I ended up at this boss, right? There's basically like a bee man. Right, he's covered in grotesque stings and stuff, and he sends bees after you.
Okay.
Like, it's the most ludicrous thing, and during it, like, he covers himself in bees to protect himself, and then he sends them, and it just goes back and forth like that with you jumping in the water. It's the most clanky, clumsy boss. It was one of those moments where I'm thinking, like, if Hideo Kojima wasn't so loved and someone else released this game, I don't know if it would even get past the planning stage. They'd be like, whoa, let me stop you there. The man's covered in bees, and he fires the bees at you.
I can imagine Patrick Stewart saying this, and then the bees just fly at you instantly,
and you're covered in stings.
Yeah. And then you fight him? No, he just stings you, and then you die. Right.
That is exactly what it's like. It was a ludicrous boss. I should have died 100 times. Yeah, so janky. I kept slipping into the water, getting back up, tossing a grenade, blowing myself up half the time, getting back up, just rinse, repeat. He eventually died. And I just thought, wow, this is one of the most iconic games of all time. The mad thing is I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah,
so past that, you have this sequence where you're like crawling underwater and there's like these weird people on drones. Like there's these little soldiers riding around in these drones. So I kept shooting them down. It was causing all kinds of grief because everyone was coming after me. But then you get introduced to even more characters. It's absolutely bonkers. And for some weird reason, I'm really enjoying it.
Do you know what I remember about? Because I played it on the 3DS.
Right.
Never finished it, I must
Which
say.
is mental that it worked on
Yeah,
3DS.
it certainly was. But I seem to remember you could take photos using obviously the camera in the 3DS.
Right.
And it would create like camouflage for you based on what you took photos of.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really quite clever actually. I mean,
so
it didn't work very well, but just the idea of it was,
Yeah.
you know, I loved that innovation about the 3DS.
Do you know what my first thought was?
We'll take a picture of the squirrel and just be...
No, that's much cleaner. I was thinking like, I wonder how much camo my butt cheeks would offer.
Just walking around like a big arse. Just disappearing against the background.
Imagine all around the soldiers are like, that noise.
A huge arse just looks
But
at
they
them.
don't chase you, they just kind of put their heads down. They're like, oh, that's embarrassing.
Well, you would walk away
back
from it, wouldn't
away.
you? Yeah, you'd be like, there's nothing to see here, boys. Let's go look over there, shall we?
If only we had some special effects skills, we could
Yeah.
properly show that. But I think the imaginations of the audience are doing wonders
Oh,
for
they've
us.
more than compensated for it. It's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, Metal Gear Solid 3, I am actually really enjoying it now, and it's made me look forward to they're remaking this one.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Lovely job. My last one is it's a game I've played before actually. I don't know why I picked it up again. You know, when you're not quite sure what to play and you just play something.
Yeah.
It's called White Knight.
I remember it. It was black and white Resident Evil clone.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. And I've finished it on the PlayStation 4 and I've since finished it again on the Switch. It's just a tidy little game, you know. I quite enjoy this game. So as you say, it's exactly that. It's got that black and white aesthetic to it. It's set in, I think it's set in like the 30s, film noir.
Nice.
You're a detective, raincoat, hat on, you know.
All the
full Monty. And
Trilby.
not Trilby. Has he
No?
got Trilby on?
I don't know.
Fedora.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I do get my hats mixed up sometimes.
Just imagine sitting there doing his monologue with a trilby on. The night was as black as dawn. I'm wearing a trilby. I look stupid.
I like that you're doing a French accent.
I wasn't French. Bloody hell. But yeah, no, it's all right. It's quite a good game, and it does mix things up from that traditional formula. It's very much, as you said, Resident Evil, like original Resident Evil, fixed camera perspective, that sort of thing. But with this art style, because obviously it doesn't have pre-rendered backgrounds,
Yeah.
it feels quite fresh, or felt quite fresh at the time. And when it did come out on the Switch, the Resi games weren't available yet.
Okay.
I seem to remember. So if you wanted that sort of gameplay on the Switch, this was what you had.
Yeah,
you know?
you are right. Yeah.
And what I also like about it is that you rather than having like ammo scarcity, you have to pick up matches because you have to stay in the light. There's something in the darkness, you know?
Yeah.
So if you go anywhere that's shadowed, you'll be chased, and then obviously you'll be killed if you don't get out of it quickly. So there are light sources, lamps and what have you, that you can kind of gravitate towards and try to stay within. But you have to pick up matches for those times where there's nothing about and you need to get to the next one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so and obviously the matches there are a finite amount of them, so you have to be quite clever with them and careful with them. And I liked that they kind of replaced ammo with that idea.
So how does that work visually? Because I know it's black and white. Does the light source obviously make that area white?
Yes, so you can imagine they strike the match, and obviously as he lifts it up, you kind of then have a nice little pool of light around you that you can then move through the darkness with. It won't light the whole area up,
Sounds cool.
but enough that you can get through to the next, proper, if you like, area of light. And it works very well. And it is, if you want a game of that ilk, if you've played Resident Evil and you've played, say, like Tormented Souls, and you're just looking for something to scratch an itch, this will definitely do it. And I'm fairly sure it goes on sale quite often.
Yeah.
For like a couple of £.
Nice.
So I would, again, if you it has a few, warts and all, if you're willing to accept it, or certainly if you buy it on sale, it's good. I like this one.
Sweet. Last up then, we've got a game from the same people that created, what was it called? The Cub?
The Cub, yeah.
And it's called Highwater. Now, it's essentially set within the same universe, which I don't think we realised until we started playing it.
Yeah, so the Cub, just to give some context, was also actually from another game, wasn't it? The golf one.
Golf Club Wasteland, which became Golf Club Nostalgia.
That's it. So basically the idea is that the Earth is now uninhabitable. The vast majority of the people have moved to Mars. and in the cub at least, you played as a young boy that obviously had, I don't know if he'd been left behind or he'd been born on the new Earth, if you like, and grown up, feral to a degree. And you, the people from Mars came back to Earth to kind of scavenge for resources, or to at least research what happened to it since, and you were trying to escape from them because they wanted to capture you. But what made it quite interesting were the little touches, like the notes that you picked up as you went along, the books that you found that kind of referenced the story this was telling, like the Jungle Book and Moby Dick, in terms of what was going on screen. But it also had like a radio station that played as you were running away or as you were traversing the land. That wasn't essential, but it was great at world building, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they've done exactly the same here.
Yeah.
Down to the same, literally the same radio presenter, haven't they?
They have, and at first I thought it was because that was set on Mars and it was telling the story of Mars while you were back on Earth.
Yeah.
But this time it seems to be telling the story of Earth, which is now underwater.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the world works in terms of whether they are linked, whether it's just two catastrophic events and they're just telling alternate realities. I don't know, but it's definitely set in a similar world, isn't it?
Yeah, so in this one, the aim is you're playing as I think it's called Nikos, was it, the main character?
Yeah.
And he's trying to get to, there's a faction or a group known as, I think it's Alphaville or something like that.
It was something like that, yeah. Alphaville, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and they're launching rockets to Mars, and he wants to sneak onto a rocket to go to Mars.
Yeah, so it could even be a prequel.
I think it
The
might
only
be.
thing that stops me from thinking that is the fact that in this Earth, the world is underwater, whereas in the Cub it wasn't.
Yeah,
So-
I do remember one part where you fell down in the Cub and there was a lot of water down there. So, or maybe it's like receded
Maybe over many years.
over many years. Yeah, we're going to create our own law.
For sure.
But it has a few weird things in there. So on the one side, you've got like this adventure game where you're in a boat. We've had one of those on Switch before. I forget the name of it. Someone knows in the audience. But on the one hand, it has that. And on the other hand, it has these turn-based combat sections that often utilize the environment. Like you have to hit down something to trap someone. You have to use your shield in another. So it's interesting. I'm sure it'll advance a little bit beyond those. But it's trying to mix up a few different genres just to keep it fresh.
Yeah. So it's taken the idea of the first game into like a 3D, almost open world, I guess, and you have obviously waypoints that you need to get to. And there are characters that you'll meet along the way that you'll need to pick up or then fetch quests or quests to obviously take on to advance the story. One thing I will say, bearing in mind it's quite early on, we haven't played a huge amount of it, but I felt like it should have utilised choice. I was going to say more than it does. It doesn't really at all, does it? I mean, you have a few options in terms of what you say, dialogue-wise, but there are moments where it feels like you should have a choice in terms of what you can do next with that kind of moral system.
Yeah.
Would have been great. I think that would have elevated this game to a much higher level.
Yeah, completely agree. So you'll have like without spoiling it, it will have let's say almost life and death decision kind of taken out of your hands for the sake of comic effect. But actually having that as a choice, you could have still achieved the same thing, but let the player make the choice of, how that plays out.
Yeah, and it damages the character because, you'll do certain things that the game wants you to do, but then, the decision is made for you, and the way he reacts, you think, well, that doesn't fit with what we've just done a minute ago. Whereas if you are in charge of that, you can start to build that character yourself, which always, for me, makes a game better in terms of being invested in the characters.
Yeah, on the flip side, it does some nice world building, and it already has done. There's like a wedding taking place, which is not what you expect. Anyone's seen the film Waterworld, you don't expect to see like a little island with people having a wedding and dancing and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's doing a few things differently, and some of the signage in the background, just to keep it interesting.
Yep.
I'm interested to see where this goes. I'll probably play, quite a bit more and see where it ends up. But so far, it's quite an interesting.
It's an interesting game, and it seems decent enough. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I played the Cub through to completion, and I liked the way, because it was 2D, and you kind of stumbled across those documents and whatnot. Whereas here you're going out of your way to find them. I can imagine some people won't, and you'll kind of miss a lot of that world building because of it.
Yeah,
that's just my take on it. If you want to know enough, you'll go and look for them, I guess. But for me, just the way you found them before, it was like breadcrumbs. I liked that, but you lose that in a 3D game. But to be fair to it, it's certainly interesting enough to keep going with and persevering with, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Right, I think that's 6 games, isn't it? So please, as always, do let us know of any games you've been playing that you've found interesting or just have something to say about. It's always nice to read those comments. And don't forget, there are a number of links down below if you're looking to pick up any games digitally or physically, as well as other bits and bobs, Joy-Cons and whatnot. Yeah, please do feel free to use them, and we'll get a nice little kickback too, which helps the channel, so thank you if you do use them. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.